Hello and welcome to Jurassic Park. I mean, the Reviews Brothers. I love Jurassic Park. I'd actually probably say that the original film is in my top 10 movies of all time. It's got dinosaurs, Jeff Goldblum and Laura Dern. What's not to like? Of course, with any movie that has the sort of success that this one did, it means we got video games. And we certainly got a lot based on this prehistoric picture, with games still being released and even re-released to this day. So in this video we're going to take a look at a whole load of them. It's not all of them, but it's enough. So how about you hold on to your butts, press that subscribe button, and we take a look at some games. First up is Jurassic Park on the NES from Ocean, which always makes me nervous. But actually this is a fun game that loosely follows the plot of the film and even some of the book. You play as Dr. Alan Grant in this top-down action adventure. You're trapped in Jurassic Park and have to survive some pretty tricky levels while being attacked by dinosaurs and, even more dangerous than that, mystery boxes. The whole game is played in the top-down perspective and you're armed with a massive gun that you'll use to blast the dinosaurs that you see, just like in the movie. Most levels have the same objective. You need to explore the quite large open stages which have a number of dino eggs in them. These need to be collected or destroyed, doesn't matter which. Once you've gotten rid of all of them in one way or another, the last one will always drop a key card. Let's not worry about the logistics there, it's just a game about dinosaurs. This key can then be used to open one of the often multiple locked buildings on the level, and inside the buildings there'll be even more eggs to collect. Essentially you need to get all the eggs to get the keys, which you then use in a computer terminal to open up the exit of the level. Simple. The game actually does a good job of mixing things up though, and you do have a level in a raft where you're going down a stream, avoiding obstacles and other dinosaurs, and you've got boss levels which see you trying to rescue other characters like Tim and Lex from stampeding Triceratops, and even the T-Rex who will swallow you whole. Now I have to say, I actually do kind of like this game, though it definitely has its problems. After all, it is an Ocean game. The first problem is ammo. There's not a lot of it. There's a few ammo types which basically do more damage, but ammo is so scarce. You collect the more powerful ammo in the levels, but your pea shooter weapon does also have limited ammo. Dinos will drop ammo for this gun when you kill them, but they only give you the exact amount it takes to kill that specific enemy, if you know what I mean. My other problem are the mystery boxes. Basically, there are pink boxes with question marks on them. These either give you health or are bombs that blow you up and basically kill you instantly. There's literally no reason for these boxes to exist other than to be bullshit, and there's no way to distinguish between them except by touching them. They are always in the same place though, so you will learn the more you play the game. But what purpose do they serve? It's just unfair, and if you have low health, you either have to gamble blowing yourself up, and by the way there seem to be more bombs than health, or just ignore them completely. Thankfully your health does get replenished between levels. And speaking of levels, they are quite long and very tough, and there's no save or password here. You need to play through the whole game in one go. Thankfully you do get a fair few continues. Other than that, I actually quite like the game. It's got decent graphics and animation, and I do like the variety of dinosaurs that you find in the game. It's the kind of one that with a modder, they could easily make this 10 times more enjoyable just by adding a password feature, removing the bombs, and upping the ammo count. But still, I do recommend giving it a try. The Game Boy also got a port of the NES game, and it is essentially the same here, featuring the same gameplay mechanics and levels, just on a slightly smaller scale. It actually does a really good job of keeping the feel of the NES game. I believe some of the levels have been mixed up slightly with a few bits moved around here and there, but for the most part it plays basically the same. Now I will say that it doesn't run quite as well. The controls are a little less responsive here, and I did take damage thanks to this, and the fact that the gun shoots slightly off centre, which to be fair it does in the NES version as well, can be a problem. I do have to say I think they've done a great job with the graphics though, and the detail etc is still really good here, even if the animation has taken a bit of a hit and is a little more jerky. The lack of colour can make it tricky to make some things out, but it doesn't really affect things too much. I do really like the music here. It is the same as the NES version, but there's something about the Game Boy sound chip that is just so appealing to me. Though of course I do have to say that I'm not a fan of the fact that the John Williams score is nowhere to be found in either version. I guess that would have been more money, but man, I love that music. Still, the stuff here is decent enough. Another surprisingly fun game from Ocean that does also have some share of its problems, mostly the fake bullshit difficulty thanks to deliberately cheap game design, but it is still one I have a bit of a soft spot for. We'll stick with Nintendo for now for Jurassic Park on the Super Nintendo. This is like the Big Brother version of the NES game, still from Ocean unfortunately. Gameplay here is largely the same, but kind of different. You play as Alan Grant again in a top-down adventure for the most part. You have to explore the park, collecting eggs and fighting off the velociraptors. But man, I've actually owned this game for around 20 years now, and I can just never get into it. They turned the bullshit dial up to 11 with this one. The main issue here are the weapons, which are in very short supply, and they're often just plain useless. You'll be exploring and raptors or Dilophosaurus will come out of the trees, giving you little to no warning and time to react, and it's almost impossible to kill them without taking damage yourself. And it will soon come as no surprise that the health kits here are few and far between. You get a taser gun with unlimited ammo, but this is basically useless, and you'll want to rely on the other weapons that you find, but they have very limited ammo, though can kill even some of the bigger dinosaurs in just one hit. Something that is quite cool here though is that when you go into buildings, the game turns into a first-person shooter. A not very impressive one, it's quite slow and jerky, but actually for the Super Nintendo it's quite impressive, and I do actually kind of like these sequences, but they're still badly designed. You have to explore the buildings looking for keycards to open doors, and usually looking for some sort of objective, like having to find where you can turn on the power to something on the overworld map. Trouble is, these buildings often have multiple floors and everything just looks the same, so it's easy to get lost. There's also enemies in them, which is pretty cool, and you can shoot them in first person, but as I mentioned it is quite slow and the novelty does wear off kinda quickly. It's a shame because the game actually looks fantastic. I really like the graphics here and the dinosaurs all look great, but it's the cheap difficulty, lack of direction, and the fact that this is just another game that has no save or password that just really makes it one that I have a hard time enjoying. I really have tried to like this game, but I've never even made it past the first level, literally in over 20 years. In fact, I'm not even sure if the game has levels or if it's just one large open world, but I don't really even care enough to put the effort in to find out. Sadly, this is not one that I recommend, unless you're one of those people that likes to beat this sort of game for bragging rights. Sega consoles got a very different set of games, actually made by Sega themselves, and they definitely got the better deal. The Sega Master System version here is a really cool side-scrolling action game. You once again play as Dr. Alan Grant, but this one doesn't really follow the plot of the film. Instead, it's kind of its own thing and acts like the movies had a happy ending, but then Dr. Grant is called back to the island because some of the dinosaurs have escaped again, and they need your help to capture them and get them back in their enclosures. So you choose from a handful of levels which you can play in any order before taking on the last levels. Each of the stages has a large dinosaur that needs capturing and acts as its boss, but to get to it you need to drive to the area of the island that it lives in. This is done automatically and you get to play a stage just like a rail shooter. You control a crosshair and are attacked by loads of dinos that you'll need to shoot. Eventually a big boss dinosaur here will appear, blow its head off, and then you're onto the main mission. The levels are all quite different and actually very fun to play. You explore the plains, engine buildings, cave systems and mountains, and there's dinosaurs all over the place. There's not a massive variety of enemies, but it is enough. It's your standard velociraptors, compies and pachycephalosaurs for the most part, but that's alright. What's nice is that most of the levels do also have their own level-specific dinosaurs as well, which kind of makes sense, and actually means the variety is pretty damn good, so I just lied to your face. Sorry about that. You've got 3 weapons that all have unlimited ammo, and you can switch between them at any point in the pause menu. The main weapon is some kind of sonic boom shooter which fires straight ahead of you and is the one you'll be using most of the time. Then you've got a fire grenade thing which fires diagonally up into the air, and then when you release the attack button it explodes. This is used to take down flying enemies as well as any tall enemies that you need to shoot in the face. Then there's the dynamite. This is a thrown thing that is a pretty short distance, but it does create a wall of flame that lasts for a second or two on the screen. This is a great weapon against fast enemies that run straight at you. At first, some of the weapons might seem a bit redundant, but trust me, you really want to learn when to use them, especially against bosses, and you will find the game much easier. And the game is a challenge, but it's a fair one. There's a lot of platforming sections, and you can hang and shimmy across almost every ceiling here, as well as climb up and down through platforms. This is something you'll want to learn, as there are traps in some of the stages, as well as instant death areas, but there aren't many levels, so it doesn't take too long to learn. Graphically, the game is really good. The levels are all bright and colourful, and the variety is excellent, with some nice background animation, and most of the dinosaurs look really good too, especially the bosses. Now, this actually might be my favourite Jurassic Park game out of all of the 8 and 16-bit console ones. It also got a port to the Game Gear, which actually I haven't played, but I understand it is pretty much identical to the Master System version, but with a couple of cut downs. I really recommend checking this one out either way. The Mega Drive also got a unique game, of course called Jurassic Park. And yes, you are Alan Grant again. It doesn't follow the plot of the movie, instead just kind of being based loosely on the events of it, as well as some things from the book, though it does have some great cutscenes that are scenes from the movie. This is another side-scrolling action platform game, and your mission is basically to survive every level and get to the end. You explore dense jungles, the underground buildings, cave systems and even rivers on the island, all of which are packed with dinosaurs that want to eat you. On your way you'll find loads of weapons to help you survive. You've got a taser with unlimited charge, though you do need to wait for it to recharge between uses, and to be honest, it's not particularly helpful. Then there's a dart gun, machine gun, grenades and so on. These do a decent job of taking out the dinos, but they do use ammo. What I quite like is that if you see a herbivore like a Triceratops, if you leave them alone they won't attack you, but if you start a fight they'll definitely end it. As well as fighting dinosaurs, you'll also need to contend with some perilous platforming, which is actually what kills me the most in this game, and the game does have some pretty bullshit level design in areas. You've got loads of blind jumps, which often lead to instant death unless you land in exactly the right place, which you probably won't until you've learnt the levels. They're also quite maze-like and getting around them can be tedious at times, but never too bad. What I do like is when the T-Rex appears at various points in the game, bursting through the scenery and trying to eat you. These parts of the game are great and actually quite tense. And what's even better is that the game gives you the option to play as a velociraptor, complete with its own story. Alan Grant has stolen your eggs, so you've got to hunt him down and kill him, which is freaking awesome. Playing as the raptor is fun, and you move really fast, jump really high, and can use your teeth, tail and claws to attack the other dinosaurs and humans that you come across in the levels. This really does add a cool layer to the game, and it is fun to play as both characters. Now, I will say that the controls here are a bit unresponsive, and the jumping could have been ironed out for a better experience with both characters, but you do get used to it. The game looks excellent as well, with some detailed graphics, and I'm fairly sure some of it is digitised as well. While I do think the Master System version is more fun to play, this is actually a great, more serious take that I do enjoy playing. But you do need to give it a bit of time to get used to. I actually didn't quite enjoy it at first, but again, it's a game I've been playing for years and it definitely has grown on me. The Mega Drive also got Jurassic Park Rampage Edition a year later, which is sort of a sequel but not really. It's not based on the film, it's just more of its own thing. Once again, you can either play as Alan Grant or the Raptor. They share some of the levels and others are slightly different, but either way you'll notice that this game is more about the action than anything else. When playing as Grant, it's basically a run and gun shooter. Your objective is just to get out of every level, with the hardest thing usually being to actually figure out how to do that. Each level is packed with dinosaurs and you get a load of different guns to use. Thankfully there's no crappy taser here. There's still a taser, but it's actually pretty good. Instead, your infinite weapon is a dart gun that's actually pretty good as well, but you also get machine guns, shotguns, grenades, the usual. You get a mixture of dinosaurs trying to eat you and evil humans that are also trying to kill you, so you'll need to shoot them all in the face while you try to find the exit. There's even a level where you ride the back of a Gallimimus, which is really fun, and you're taking down helicopters with rockets at the same time. I mean, how awesome is that? But it is really damn tough. The levels are all very large, and there is some annoying things like pterodactyls in their level where you have to get from the nest at the top to the bottom. If one of the pterodactyls grabs you, it carries you all the way back to the start of the level, no matter how far you are. As mentioned, you can also play as the Raptor. This is basically the same as the other game, where you've got similar levels and have to chase Grant down. Again, you move really fast and use your dino powers to attack. Now, I'll be honest, I couldn't for the life of me figure out how to get past the first level as the Raptor, which I know is me being crap and I could just look it up, but I really try not to look these things up. And after trying for 20 minutes, I kind of gave up. I actually don't really like playing as the Raptor here. It was fun to start with, but you do realise the jerky controls for it just aren't as fun as the shooting ones for Grant. The game looks good though. It's been given a much more cartoony style, which does kind of suit the theme, and probably helps it play faster than the other one as well, but the animation here is still great and it all looks decent enough. I don't think this is as fun as the other game, but it's still one that you might want to check out. The Sega CD also got its own Jurassic Park. This time though, it's a point-and-click adventure game, a genre that I'm actually a big fan of, though this one is only okay. It's actually set after the first movie, and you are part of a group of scientists sent to the island to collect eggs. But wouldn't you know it, there's still dinosaurs there that want to kill you. So you need to collect eggs and get off the island before you become lunch. Being a point-and-click game, you control a cursor, which you need to move around every inch of the screen, looking for things to interact with. Often the cursor will change to indicate that you can interact with whatever it is you're pointing at, either telling you that you can move to a new location, pick up an item, look at something more closely, or if it turns into a flashing cross, it means that you need another item in order to interact with it. At which point you want to go to your inventory and try using every item with everything you see. As you can probably guess, there are a lot of puzzles here, though I guess most of the puzzles are really just become a case of having found the right item to interact with whatever it is you're trying to use. It can be easy to miss things thanks to some very grainy graphics, and I was kind of stuck for ages because at one point I didn't realise a brown blob on the floor was actually a nest where a key was hidden, so I never bothered to click on it. That's when I learned to just try pressing on every inch of the screen. Interestingly, the game actually has quite a lot of combat in it as well. You find a few weapons as you play, as well as ammo. When you come across some angry dinos, you can switch to your guns to shoot them. You'll need to be quick though, as the game is pretty unforgiving. Thankfully, there are save points, which you need to make sure to use very often. Also, you don't want to shoot every dinosaur, that's how I ended up dying, by shooting friendly dinosaurs and pissing them off. Something to be aware of is that you have 12 real-time hours to complete the game. And if you don't do it in this time, you'll miss your ride off the island and it's game over, so the game will likely require multiple playthroughs. As mentioned, the graphics here aren't great, the colours are all a bit ropey, and I really do think they could have done a better job. If this was a PC CD-ROM game instead, then it probably would have been a bit better. I do like the transitions between the scenes though, which play out like short FMV sequences of you moving to a new area of the island or around the area that you're in. They gave me real Seventh Guest vibes, which is always good. There's also some fun video sequences and the suitably terrible actors that offer clues and tell you what you need to be doing. And you can also find CDs in the park that can be played in various computers to tell you about the dinosaurs, so you can learn in between being eaten by raptors, which is nice. Overall, I do actually think this is quite a fun game. It's deliberately slow paced, but it's not too slow or you'll run out of time. And I always enjoy figuring out what items are used where and so on. If you like this sort of thing, I would say give it a go, though don't expect a looker. Back to Nintendo now for a few games. This is Jurassic Park 2, The Chaos Continues. And no, it's not based on the second movie, it's just a sequel to the first game, though has nothing to do with it. Sadly, it's still made by Ocean. Here you play as a soldier, and you've got a selection of missions to embark on, each of which is just horrible to play, which is a real shame after the really impressive intro that has full speech and everything. The game is just a side-scrolling run and gun, which is fine, and you'll explore the jungles and buildings of Jurassic Park, just trying to complete whatever the mission objective you are given is, but good luck doing any of that. I'll get this out of the way now, I really hate this game. It's one of my least favourite Super Nintendo games, and easily my least favourite in this video, but as with a lot of Ocean games, it could have been great if they put more than 30 seconds worth of thought into the design of the game. Basically, the difficulty here is the problem once again, but it's such a false difficulty. Enemies attack you from off screen and it's almost impossible not to take damage, and of course you get one life and that's it. The levels are large and maze-like with little to no direction of where you need to go or what you need to do, so it's easy to get lost and go round in circles. You take full damage, which is a sin here, and ammo is very limited. You do get a few weapons with unlimited ammo, but they're kind of useless. At the start of the game you can select from all of the missions available, but I'm guessing that's because they know the game is bullshit and no one will be able to beat any of them. The furthest I've gotten is on one of the levels where I planted a bomb, which was my objective, but then I had about 1 minute to escape before the place blew up, but that meant remembering the exact route I took to get there in the first place, all the while being attacked from every angle, including off screen, by enemies. It's such a shame because, again, the game looks fantastic and actually controls really well, but the gameplay design choices just ruin everything. It's another game that modders could probably make a few small changes to, and the game would be infinitely more playable. But as it is, I really hate it and I don't recommend anyone plays it. I'd really like to see an interview with Ocean employees to see why they had to make such crap design choices in almost all of their games. Jurassic Park 2 on the Game Boy is also not based on the second movie, and it's very different. For a change, it's actually quite enjoyable. This is another side-scrolling shooter where you play as Alan Grant, and your mission is to explore the island in short stages where for some reason you need to collect a bunch of key cards, which for the longest time I actually thought were notebooks. Once you've got them all, the door at the end of the level opens and you can exit. Eventually you'll fight some bosses and beat the game. It's actually pretty easy, and I managed to finish the whole thing in about half an hour on my first try, and I only died twice. But I have to say that I did quite like it. It's really simple. The levels start easy and you can run, jump, swim and shoot in a few directions. Levels have lots of dinosaurs to shoot. There's raptors, compies, triceratops, small flying ones that I don't know what they're meant to be, and more. There's no discrimination here though, just kill them all. The number of cards you have to collect varies wildly between levels. Sometimes it's just a handful, other times you need 50 or more. But usually you find them all on your way to the exit, as levels are reasonably linear. Later ones might see you backtracking a little bit to find some paths that you missed though. I do really like the bosses here. They're just big dinos, but they've got cool patterns to figure out, which takes all of 20 seconds, and they're not really that tough. Even the final boss I beat on my first try, but I have to say I had fun doing it. It all looks fine with a cartoony style, and the controls are decent. I would actually say this is worth a playthrough. It won't take you long, and there's definitely worse games that you could be playing. A game that is based on the second movie is the Lost World Jurassic Park, and this is the Mega Drive version, or Genesis. It's a top-down action game that very loosely follows the plot of the movie. You're given a number of mission objectives, and you'll need to complete them. These range from just finding certain locations on the map, rescuing and escorting survivors, collecting eggs, which I really love making you do in these games, killing dinosaurs, and so on. For the most part, you're exploring the large open levels on foot, where you have access to the usual range of weapons, and you'll be shooting the usual variety of dinosaurs. I actually quite like the weapons here. They all feel useful and are easy to aim and use. What's cool is that a lot of the outdoor levels also have cars that you can get in and drive around. This is a really nice touch and makes getting around the stages a breeze. But be careful, as the cars will explode if they take too much damage. As well as weapons, you'll find health, car repair kits and collectible Jurassic Park logos that give you points and lives and so on. At any point you can pause the game to check your mission objectives, as well as have a look at the surprisingly useful map. This really helps find your objectives and stops the game from becoming frustrating. In fact, I actually quite like this game. And what's even better is that every few levels you also get a really good looking section that really breaks things up. One sees you chasing a dinosaur in a first-person, almost Mode 7 looking level where you've got to avoid trees and capture a dino. Then there's one where you're riding a raft down a river and have to fend off any deadly fish that want to eat your face. One where you're being chased by a T-Rex, and there's one where you're flying a helicopter. These levels are all really fun and show off what the Mega Drive can really do. They're very impressive indeed. Some of these levels are really hard, but still fun. In fact, the whole game is pretty hard. Even though you have good weapons and can definitely handle yourself, the dinosaurs can take you out pretty quickly, and there's human enemies with guns that will also fire at you. As well as this, you'll find traps, fire, landmines and so on, all of which will kill you almost instantly if you're not in a vehicle. But I would say that this is a fair difficulty, and you'll learn how best to deal with everything as you play. I just wish there was a strafe button, that would really improve things. But still, this is a fun game that I do recommend. The Game Boy is the only Nintendo console to get a Lost World game, but judging by the quality of this one, that's not a bad thing. It's a side-scrolling action game that sees you running around Site B collecting eggs, yay. But man, it's just not fun. This is one of those cinematic platformer type games where the controls are slow and clunky and you have to wait for animations to finish before you can do anything else, and it's just not fun to play. You explore the large levels that are set all over the island and just need to collect everything to end the stage. Of course, dinosaurs are everywhere, as well as evil plants, which are often more dangerous, and there's a lot of platforming that will likely do you some damage as well. You can run around the levels, and you can run, jump, climb all over the place as well, which to be fair is actually quite easy to do, though the jumping isn't great and hard to control. You have an arrow that always points towards the nearest egg, which honestly is the only thing stopping this game from being truly awful, as the level design is pretty mind-numbing. You'll need to fight dinosaurs, and what better way to do that than with your fists. That's right, for the most part you'll be punching and kicking dinosaurs in this game, which quite realistically barely works. though this is more of an incompetence thing than anything. To be fair, you can only really hurt these small dinosaurs with your fists, and you will need to find weapons if you want to kill the larger ones, but your best bet is just to avoid enemies entirely unless absolutely necessary. Now the game itself doesn't look terrible, it doesn't look good, don't get me wrong, but it's not terrible. Your character animation is pretty good, but that's about it. This is a game that you could force your way through in probably about an hour or so, but it's just not fun at all to play thanks to the sloppy controls and just boring game design. Though I would take this over Jurassic Park 2 on the Super Nintendo any day.
The Lost World Jurassic Park was a film that divided people. Some people I knew loved it, others hated it. I quite enjoyed it. The first movie got loads of games, so it was expected that the second one would do so as well, and this is what we got. It's a 2.5D platform game that, interestingly, doesn't bother to follow the movie at all, or even feature any of the human characters. Instead, you play as a variety of dinosaurs, and your objective for every level is just basically to get as far to the right as possible until the level ends. You start off as a small compy, and you explore some quite large levels that have a few segments to them, running in and out of the scenery, which is all made up of polygons. You have to watch out for other dinosaurs, like raptors and other bastards that I don't know the names of. Some of them fly, some have 2 legs, some have 4 legs. There's also spiky plants that you need to keep an eye out for, as they'll even damage you if you're not careful. The enemy dinosaurs start out pretty dangerous, but you'll soon learn to use your variety of attacks to good effect. You've got a few bites that you can do, and if you attack while running, you do a cool claw attack that's pretty powerful. To get your health back, you can munch away at any of the dinosaurs or insects that you've killed, which is a cool idea. There are some dinosaurs that are too big though, and these ones you can't even hurt, and you've just got to run away from them. In fact, you can just run away from most enemies if you want to. Doing this can make some of the levels last only a few minutes, which isn't a bad thing. After way too long, you eventually stop being a compy and get to control a raptor, then a human, and eventually a massive T-Rex. But the game does take far too long to get going to these points. The compy levels take up most of the game, and the other dinosaurs only have a few levels each, despite being much more fun to play as. Not the humans though, they suck. I only got to try one of them. It's a commando bloke armed with a gun and a grappling hook, and he controls incredibly badly. You can shoot dinosaurs, which is effective, but trying to jump, climb or use the grappling hook is just a real pain in the ass to do, and I died a lot thanks to shoddy controls. The levels also have things you can collect in them, like claws, DNA and extra lives. These unlock various things in the game and are pretty well hidden in the levels. Thankfully, you can go back to any of the levels that you've beaten through the options menu, so you can go back to find them all if you really want to. Now, the game seems fine when you're looking at it, but not really when you're playing it. The controls are really stiff, but the characters are also kind of slippery, so it's a weird combination. The platforming is pretty much just terrible, and the collision detection is really bad, making it tough to be precise at any point. And this is the real problem, as there's some very small platforms that you'll need to jump on, but most of the time you'll jerk around in the air and end up falling off it, or sometimes you do land on it, but just slide off anyway. This is very frustrating, especially as there is loads of fall damage, which is really where I died a lot, probably more than from enemies. Graphically, this is not a real looker. It's not bad for 3D on the Saturn, and the animation is pretty good. It's just very low polygon, and the textures are very pixelated with a lot of pop-in despite being 2.5D. Also, the field of view is just too small. Your characters are large on screen, but that mainly means that you don't get to see far around you, meaning it's easy to miss platforms and you'll have to rely on a lot of leaps of faith, usually ending in death. The sound and music though are amazing, and they sound like they're right out of the film. Overall, I wouldn't say this is a terrible game, but it does have quite a few issues and is quite annoying a lot of the time. I wouldn't recommend spending more than £20 on it, but if you find it cheap and love dinosaurs like I do, then you might get a bit of enjoyment out of it.
Jurassic Park 3 got quite a few games on the Game Boy Advance, 3 in fact, and we're going to look at 2 of them, including Jurassic Park Island Attack. This is actually a fun survival horror game where you play as Dr. Grant once again, who has crash landed on Isla Sorna. It doesn't follow the plot of the film really, instead the aim of the game is to make it to the coast so you can be saved and taken off the island. But it actually plays a bit like a survival horror game from an isometric perspective. You've got to explore some quite large levels that are kinda open but ultimately quite linear. You'll need to look in every nook and cranny to find items, keys and weapons to help you survive and escape. You'll find crates to smash, though some require an item. These contain health or sometimes other pickups, and everything you get is stored in your inventory and can be used easily, swapping between items with the shoulder buttons and pressing the B button to use them. There are puzzles to solve as well, but similar to a lot of games like this, they tend to revolve around having the right item in the right place. You'll be hunting for keys most of the time though. There's plenty of dinosaurs to worry about as well, and a fair bit of combat. Most of the time you only have a flare gun, which does have unlimited ammo. This doesn't directly kill enemies though, instead it stuns them for a few seconds, if you're lucky, and it knocks them back a little bit. Instead what you need to do is use the environment and lure enemies to explosive barrels and then blow them up. This will knock them out, but only until you leave the screen and then come back. When you do come back, they'll be back up and after you, and the barrel will be gone, so make sure you use them wisely. Later on you do get better weapons, but they do have limited ammo. There's also chase sections here, which are kind of fun. Basically, there'll be a massive dinosaur behind you, and you've just got to run to escape while avoiding obstacles and other enemies. I will say that sometimes the collision detection is a bit crap here though. There's even a few boss fights, and these are often really tough, mainly because you can't move while you're aiming, and there's usually a lot of things on screen that can hurt you, but you've got to wait for animations to finish before you can move. Annoyingly, if you die, you usually have to go back to the start of the level, which is less than ideal, though there are a few checkpoints at times when the game is feeling generous. I do recommend doing what I did and using save states for this one, especially while you get used to the game. Though it is kind of fun, I don't think it's a great game or anything, but I do think it's got some good ideas. It's another one of those annoying ones where if they just put a little bit more effort and time into it, it could have been excellent, but you can see it's been rushed in a few areas. The graphics are okay, they got that digitised look that developers seem to love on the Game Boy Advance, but I do have to say the animation is very good. I'd say that if you can handle a bit of jank, this is worth taking a look at. Jurassic Park 3, the DNA factor, is the definition of a crappy cash grab, and it's from Konami, who knew? Here you get to choose from two characters who play the same, so basically do you want to be a boy or a girl? Then you've got to explore the island where there's been an accident and DNA, which as we all know is a massive glowing orb of various colours, has been scattered all over the island. You need the DNA to piece together the dinosaurs so you can bring them back, even though they're already back. Now well. So you have to explore some small levels where your goal is to get to the end, while collecting as much of the DNA as you can, and you'll need to fight the angry lizards along the way. But as soon as you start playing, you really see this game has had very little effort put into it. There are dinosaurs everywhere, and at first you can use your flying kick to fight them off. You'll also find meat that you can throw to distract them, or even a massive knife to attack, and actually works quite well. Later on you get guns and stuff too, which are pretty good to use to be fair. But it's just not fun to play still. The controls are sloppy and the awkward animation is very jerky, making things just not fun to play. There's also bottomless pits on most levels, and it's easy to slip off of things and die. You can move up and down as well as left and right, though this really doesn't add a lot of anything to anything. There's actually only two planes that you can walk on, and you don't move around like, say, Streets of Rage. It's more like the Power Rangers game on the Super Nintendo, if you know that one. Sometimes you might need to go behind a tree, but that's about as exciting as it gets. Once you've completed a level, you've got a DNA minigame, which is kind of like the opposite of Breakout. You control a little ship at the bottom of the screen, and you can shoot the coloured DNA particles that you've collected. You need to match the right colours in the indicated spaces on the DNA strand, and then you create a dinosaur for your encyclopedia. Wow. It's boring and easy, but probably more fun than the platforming levels thanks to the shoddy control, annoying enemies that as soon as you get to a larger one become really hard to avoid, and the confusing levels that are still somehow simple, but hard to navigate. It just makes the whole game a chore to play. This was clearly sneezed out in about 2 weeks, and there's really no reason for anyone to play it.
More licenses now with Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. This is a really cool park building game where you're in charge of building and maintaining your very own Jurassic Park. Now believe it or not, I really love park building sim games, and I have done since I first played Theme Park back in the day. So here you start out by creating an island from a bunch of random presets, and once you've got the one you want to start with, you're plonked onto the island. From here you've got to do a ton of things, and I'm not going to go into crazy detail here, but I'll give you a brief overview. You start with a bit of cash, and you'll need to spend it wisely to send out teams across the world to dig sites, looking for fossils and amber. You use these to get DNA for dozens of different dinosaurs, and once you've got enough of their DNA, you can start to make the dinosaurs. So it's back to the island, where you'll need to create incubators and of course build various pens to keep the dinosaurs in. Once you've got a few, you can open your park to the public, and then see the money start to roll in, hopefully. Keeping guests happy is a big part of the game, and you'll need to make sure you've got a good variety of dinosaurs in the park, so there's something for everyone. You can mix and match dino types in the pens, and sometimes you'll want to put in big meat eaters with other big meat eaters so they have a fight, or even prey dinosaurs so they can hunt and fight and kill each other. Some park goers love this, others not so much, so it's all about having a good balance. As well as the dinosaurs though, you need to make sure there's enough paths, viewing galleries and so on around the place so the guests get a good view. And then you need to look at these smaller details like hiring cleaners, security, building food outlets, installing benches and bins and even toilets. It's these things that can put off your guests. The better your park, the higher your star rating. The higher your star rating, the more dig sites become available and the more dinosaurs you can find. You also get access to more upgrades and amenities that you can add to the park, like better security fences or extra attractions like gift shops to boost income. Something that is a bit annoying though is that you can only access 3 dig sites at a time, so you won't ever be able to have all the dinosaurs in your park. Of course, being wild beasts, the dinosaurs can cause you trouble as well as the annoying guests. Yep, dinosaurs will break out of their enclosures and go on rampages, eating your guests and ruining your bottom line. When this happens, you'll need to get in the chopper and head out to stop them. Sometimes you can round them up and herd them somewhere, but often you'll just need to break out the rifle and shoot the bastards in the face. It's sad, but gotta be done. There's also missions you can do, which are things like going on dinosaur hunts or even photographing them. These are accessed in a separate menu to the park building side of things and are fun little distractions. Playing the game on a PS2 works well, the controls are intuitive, and I didn't really have any issues with making my park or doing what I needed to do. My only real complaint is that you can't zoom out very far, making it hard to find where you are on the map or getting to where you need to go. Graphically though, the game looks great, considering how much it has to throw on the screen. There is a good amount of detail, and though there is a bit of slowdown here and there, it was never enough to ruin the experience. Seeing the rampages or natural disasters that occur was always fun, except when you realise you have to rebuild most of your park. Thank goodness for extra money cheats, eh? You get the classic Jurassic Park music, as well as a pretty terrible impression of most of the movie cast, and the game just works really well. I'd say this is a must-play for any Jurassic Park fan. It was also released on the Xbox and the PC, and while I'm sure the PC version is probably the best version of it, you certainly can't go wrong here.
Now here's an interesting one. It's Jurassic Park Tresspasser, which I'm very excited to say runs perfectly on my Steam Deck. And if you want to play it, maybe see if there's some kind of archive on the internet where you can get things. Say no more. You play as Anne, who, like most people that go to Jurassic Park, is in a plane crash on Site B, so your mission is to find a way off the island and not get eaten in the process. The game is a first-person one. I won't really say that it's a first-person shooter, because that isn't entirely true. It's a first-person survival game, and honestly, I unironically actually really like this game, even though I know I probably shouldn't. The game is level-based, and the levels, while quite large, are actually also quite linear, and you need to just get to the end of each one. You'll explore levels looking for weapons and often keycards and things like that, which you'll need to open the various doors to get around. As well as this, you'll be doing some minor platforming, solving physics-based puzzles, and fighting dinosaurs. Now, it's easy to look at the game and say that it's bad, but really it's just way ahead of its time, introducing mechanics that were very unique, but honestly we just weren't ready for then, mainly thanks to the tech of the time. Physics is one of the main things here. A lot of the puzzles involve you knocking things over, creating bridges, weighing things down and that sort of thing. You'll find boxes, planks of wood and rocks that can all be used as tools to do various things to help you explore and reach platforms that you need to get to. Or you might see a weapon on top of something, and the only way to get it down is to throw a rock at it to knock it over. The levels themselves are large and open, though honestly there's not a whole lot in them. There are trees, but it's not exactly a jungle out there, and these things are pretty sparse, though it makes things easy not to get lost, to be fair. There are dinosaurs though, and most of them want to eat you. The main enemies here are raptors of course, but you also get to see a T-Rex and other big herbivore things. In fact, there's quite a few friendly dinosaurs, which as long as you don't bother them, they'll leave you alone, or even sometimes start a fight with the predator dinosaurs. It's great. Thankfully, a lot of guns have been left around the island for you to find and use. You can carry 2 at a time and you get a range of pistols, shotguns and machine guns. They aren't easy to use though, thanks to another one of the game's innovations. Basically, you only control Anne's right arm. You use a combination of mouse control while holding various buttons to move the arm as well as rotate it and twist it. What you need to do is find the best position to be able to shoot stuff. Once it's set, you can keep it in the same place as long as you don't touch anything else. This can make the aiming really hard, and there's no reticule to help you, but honestly, once you get used to it, it's actually pretty fun. Oh, and even better, to check your health, you just have to look down at your massive tits, and there's a heart tattoo that shows you how much health you have. This is partly because the game has no HUD, another innovation for the time, and so to do things like learn how much ammo you have, you just have to listen to Anne telling you. What's cool is that as you play, voiceovers from John Hammond himself will play, giving you some exposition about the area that you're in, why it's in ruins, and Richard Attenborough himself does the voiceover, and Minnie Driver is the voice of Anne. They really spared no expense, in that department anyway. So the game really does have a reputation for being awful, and you can kinda see why. It doesn't look terrible, just a bit sparse, with an emphasis on realistic physics, actually leading to some unintentionally hilarious moments with dinosaurs bobbing and bouncing all over the place in very strange ways. But the way I see it is that the game now plays a lot like those deliberately janky physics games, like Goat Simulator or Octodad or Surgeon Simulator, and playing it now, when I'm kinda used to games like that, and sort of acting as if it's meant to be janky, I find this really fun to play. At the time you would have needed a supercomputer to play it, but now anyone should be able to run it with relative ease, and honestly I do think it's worth playing. The controls are weird, but really don't take that long to get used to, and I'm having a real fun time with this one. It's a game that I think could really benefit from a remake or remaster, and would be especially great if they did a VR port. Come on Team Beef, add this one to your list. Over to the Meta Quest 2 now for Jurassic World Aftermath Collection. This is a really cool VR survival game where once again you play as someone who's been in a plane crash and ended up in Jurassic Park. And yes, you need to survive. Thankfully you have the all-seeing, all-knowing radio buddy this time that helps you out every step of the way. Oh, and apologies for the blue boundary that keeps appearing in the footage, I don't have a massive space to play VR games. Now this is my favourite type of VR game, the ones that let you have free control of where you move around. You use the analog sticks to walk wherever you want, and then your hands to interact with everything, and you're never fixed to one spot. Once the annoying talky bit at the start of the game is out of the way, you'll be exploring the island in a series of science buildings where you need to find items to solve simple puzzles and realign some satellites, recover some dino DNA that you need to get, and get the hell out of Dodge. But here's the thing, it turns out InGen has been experimenting with raptors in secret, and they made a batch of super raptors that are even smarter than the others, and they are loose as well and decide they want to hunt you down. This basically makes the game a VR Jurassic Park version of the Alien Isolation game, where you can rarely do anything to defend yourself from dinosaurs. Instead you just need to use stealth and tricks to hide from them and cause distractions, and it works really damn well. For the most part, you're exploring a lot of corridors where you'll need to find the various items and interact with computers, consoles and other equipment, getting it all back online. The interaction here is great, and they've included what are essentially a load of different minigames to get things working again, and I was surprised at the variety. Every so often raptors will appear and you'll start to shit your pants. It's genuinely really tense when they do appear. You'll need to hide in cupboards, under desks and behind furniture and stay as quiet as possible to avoid them. If you're spotted, they'll chase you, and while it is possible to get away, it's definitely not easy. Not far into the game you get a wireless glove that lets you interact with electronics remotely. This is what you need to survive, as you can turn on radios, open some doors and cause other distractions for the dinosaurs to get their attention away from you, so you can slip away and get in a cupboard or into another room. It works well, and the game genuinely made me sweat and jump a few times. And something I always have to mention when talking about VR is that the footage you see here really never does the game justice. The sense of scale is amazing, and seeing the dinosaurs up close is great, especially when it's a T-Rex and you barely come up to its knee. There's a part of the game where you're looking straight into its mouth, and it does give you a bit of the heebie-jeebies. The graphics here are brilliant too. As you can see, it's all cel shaded, which at first I thought would mean that it's not going to be scary at all. But you soon forget that you're in a cartoon world, and it actually really helps give everything a great style and some great animation as well. I've actually only been playing this for about an hour and a half or so, but I'm really having a great time with it so far. It is a little slow to start, which honestly seems to be a real thing with VR games. But once it gets going, it really is a great game, and it runs perfectly on the Quest 2 here. This is highly recommended, unless you're a pussy like Belt Buckle Bill and get motion sickness like a baby. And finally, for this unnecessarily long video, here is Jurassic Park on the PlayStation 3 from Telltale Games. This is one of their episodic games that was released back in 2011, which is basically what all Telltale games were like. It's split into 5 parts, each of which lasts a couple of hours, and the choices you make in each part carry over to the next part and affect how it all plays out, meaning that there's quite a lot of replay value here. Anyway, here you play as a few different characters in what is essentially a point-and-click adventure game that is packed with quick-time events. What's cool is that the game is actually set in parallel with the first movie. Dr. Harding is a vet at the park and his annoying daughter is visiting, but is due to leave soon. Then the events of the movie happen and Dennis Nedry causes all the power to go out, coupled with a bad storm, so they can't leave, and of course the dinosaurs escape. Meanwhile, you have Nima Cruz, who you also play as. She's the person that Nedry was meant to meet and give the dino DNA he stole to. He doesn't show at their meeting point, so she heads into the jungle with the annoying guy called Miles to try and find him and the DNA. As you'd expect, all sorts of nasty things happen, people get eaten, and you have a change of conscience. Well, sort of, as you didn't really know that you were the bad guy at the time, but you know what I mean. So in case you haven't figured out already, the gameplay is actually simple. You basically just need to look around the screen, moving the camera, at which point button prompts will appear on the screen, some permanently and some just for a second or two, and you've got to press the right buttons at the right times to interact with the various things. You're essentially thrown into a bunch of scenes, and depending on which prompts you manage to succeed and fail at, a number of different things will happen. Sometimes you'll die and have to restart, sometimes you'll take different paths depending on what buttons you press, and so on. Often you're interacting with other characters as well, and in some areas to progress you need to make sure you choose the right dialogue conversations, or again, you might go a different route or end up dying or something along those lines. Relationships between characters are also built in these sections, but nowhere near the extent of the other Telltale game that I've played, which is The Walking Dead. The main thing here is the story though, and it's really well done. I love how it all ties into the movie, and it is well written, and you can actually see the game taking place at the same time. It's so cool. The characters are well written, though I do find some annoying, especially the little kid, but that's because I always hate obnoxious know-it-all children in films. They're never realistic and should always be the first one to die, just like they would in real life. I will say that I think the gameplay could have been a little bit more involved, but that's likely because the only other Telltale game that I've played is the Walking Dead one, which actually lets you control your character directly, though I never experienced that here, but I have only played through the first episode, so who knows in episode 2. The game looks great. I'm playing on the PS3 here, and the designs and characters are all really good with some excellent animation and voice acting. There are some loading issues though, as the game needs to load so many scenes in quite a short space of time. There's quite a few jerky animations when they start and finish, which actually sometimes affects the controls if something pops up early on, and they're not as responsive for the QuickTime events as they should be, which can appear out of nowhere. Thankfully you can retry sections as many times as you want, so just kinda need to learn them. Overall, I can see some people probably not enjoying this as much as I'm enjoying it. It is more of an interactive movie than a game, really, but as a massive fan of the movie, I love how this all ties in. Unfortunately, the game is incredibly hard to find these days. I've had it on the PlayStation for years, though this is actually the first time I've played it for some reason. As far as I'm aware, it never got a physical release. I think it did on the Xbox 360, but good luck finding it, especially for a good price. And it's no longer sold on any of the digital stores, presumably due to licensing. I tried to see if I could find it for my Steam Deck somewhere, you know where I mean, but it doesn't even seem to be available anywhere that I could see. So I'm just lucky to have it on the PlayStation, I guess, and I'll be sure to play through the whole thing before that conks out.
She's pretty cute, huh?
She's warm. I didn't think that she'd be so warm.
So there you go, a ton of Jurassic Park games that you might want to try, and some that you definitely shouldn't. I'm aware that there are more games out there, and as I literally looked up while I was writing the script, I just saw Lego Jurassic Park on my shelf. Bugger. But still, there's 17 games here, and that's more than enough to keep anyone happy, I hope. What's your favourite Jurassic Park game? Let me know in the comments below. On screen now, you can see where you can follow me, so why not do so? I've got loads of great content for everyone to enjoy. And now, all that's left for me to say is thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.